The scene plays out every day in front of Crossroads, Rhode Island. And as you pass by, this is probably your image of the homeless. Single people hanging out on the sidewalk in the middle of the day. But that's only part of the story.
We have seen a 124% increase in the number of families. So that we've more than doubled the number of families.
Why?
I think the economy has caught up with the families.
Ann Nolan has been Crossroads Executive Director since 2001, going back to when it was the old Travelers Aid on Union Street. Crossroads is the state's major center for the homeless. Last year served 3,000 people. 40% were families.
You've heard of trickle-down economics? This is trickle-down economics in its purest sense. In other words, people are getting pushed out the bottom, and it takes a while. It's like that French press. When you're making coffee, you push down and everybody gets squashed. Most homeless people, you have no idea they're homeless. They're the kids in school sitting next to your kids. They're waiting on you at Dunkin' Donuts. They're everywhere, and they're struggling. And they'd rather not have people know they're homeless.
People that think it's just welfare moms or it's just people trying to leech off the system, you know, there are so many people who are literally just a paycheck away.
Cicely Dove runs Crossroads Family Center, a mile south of the agency's headquarters in South Providence. Crossroads bought the building, the old Pearson Funeral Home, in 2006, with families specifically in mind.
Families were literally sleeping on the floor in conference rooms, and if you were familiar with the old Travelers Aid at that time, it was not a place for kids to be.
The new building is designed for 15 families, but over the past year has had to handle much more. And that's meant this room, which doubles as both a dining room and a meeting room during the day, is now a bedroom at night. Same with the computer room just down the hall. The air mattress pushed off to the side during the day. At times, the Crossroads staff has had to put up late arriving families for a night in the family overflow room of the main building at 160 Broad Street, where the lights remain on 24 hours a day, making sleep even more difficult.
When you are presented with, you are going to be sleeping on a floor in a conference room with your baby, or on a floor in a kitchen, where during the day people eat there and at night it's transformed into a living room, and they say it's better than me sleeping outside, then you know that people absolutely have no other options.
Dove grew up in Providence, the daughter of a minister, and this being Rhode Island, has at times met people showing up at the family center who she knows.
I've had people here that I've been to school with.
What's that like?
Difficult, and honestly awkward. Mm-hmm. And so, because I'm somewhat removed from day to day, and I don't, it was easier for me to escape. It was easier for me to stay in my office, or easier for me to manipulate, events of a meeting. So it's challenging.
And while most families are here for a relatively short time, for others it's been much longer as they try to get back on their feet.
We had a family come in the beginning of September of last year, of 2011. They did not leave here until May. Now, it's surreal because this mom had 3 teenage daughters. They spent their entire academic year in a shelter. One of them was graduating, going to college. So that, to me, over the past year, that has been one of the most surreal examples. I cannot imagine spending 30 days, 60 days here, let alone an entire academic career. Prom, they were getting dressed for prom here. We have to be sensitive to them and help them through that process, because oftentimes they tend to act out. They tend to place lots of blame on the parents. And
the parents feel guilty enough as it is, right?
And the parents feel guilty, and they would be better off without me. The stories that I could tell, parents saying, I can't do this, I can't put my kids through this, and the self-blame and then the blame of their children.
Nolan says you might be surprised who the homeless in Rhode Island really are.
As well known as Crossroads is, I think most people don't have a clue what we do.
What, do they see the people hanging out on the, is that what it is?
Out. The chronically homeless are the most visible aspect of homelessness.
And is that your main clientele?
Not at all.
Okay.
The vast majority of people who are homeless, in our case, 70% of the homeless are homeless once in their lives. It's situational, all these families we're seeing. Most of the families are brand new to homelessness. They've never been homeless. And what they need is 4 or 5 months to stabilize their lives, and then they're never homeless again.
Over the last year, we've also seen a shift in who we're seeing. And so previously, it was a lot of single heads of household coming here for services. Over the last year, probably year and a half, we've been seeing a lot more two-parent intact families coming here.
The pressure they have been under, with 124% increase in the number of people, we are staffed to deal with 15 families. So not only do we have the facility, but we have a staff to deal with 15 families. They are right now dealing with 40 families. And they do it with smiles and songs and love in their hearts. It's just an amazing thing to watch that staff work. I am so moved by their dedication. And Cicely is the leader of that.
Because we deal with the population is so transient, we don't always get to see the effects of our work, that we like to say. And that's the analogy that I absolutely say, is that we
kind
are
of like a minister, right?
Absolutely. We are the seed planters. We might not ever get to see that harvest, but we need to know that we have been responsible for planting the seeds that hopefully will create a harvest, and that will change generations to come.
In Providence, Jim Hummel for the Rhode Island Spotlight.